Welcome back to yet another installment of I Swear I Can Make Monthly Videos. I never said that they had to be good videos, where this time I think I've got to come clean about something. I played Destiny 2. I know. I'm just as upset as you are, but put the pitchforks down for a moment, because we've got to talk about the new expansion, Edge of Fate. Fate, I meant fate, not feet. Now I've attracted more weirdos than just the Destiny fans. For those of you returning to my videos, this one's going to be a little bit lighter, just by nature of it being a light expansion in a MMO live service game rather than a full single player experience that tugs at the heartstrings. I'm also sure that most people don't want to hear me talk about Destiny for too long, so with that being said, let's just get right into it. So the campaign. I played on Legendary, as I have done for every single expansion that's been an option. I tried to lean into a lot of the new systems that were introduced in Edge of Fate to really get a feel for them, and that may have skewed my view on some of the gameplay encounters and things like that, but I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. I played solo, as I often do, because who among us actually truly wants to play Destiny 2? So I was by myself, and I also didn't use the Omega super ridiculously busted scout that got introduced in the Edge of Fate season pass, that has since been nerfed. It was doing dummy damage. I mean, you could run a legendary mission in about 15 minutes with a team full of this, probably less than that if you were smart about it. It was absolutely ridiculous. I used honest strats, honest guns. I played on my hunter the first time. Most of the footage is not going to be from my hunter because I wanted to beat the campaign on my other characters. So there are a lot of things to go over with the campaign. The first thing is that Bungie really tried to push the idea that this was going to be styled after a Metroidvania. You go through, you get the ability, and then you go back through and use the ability to get to new places. It was okay. It didn't really mean much. And they really leaned into the idea of get the ability, look, you see that thing, you can use the ability on that thing, so there's probably a pickup for it around here somewhere because it's not inherent to your character in this expansion. It's a destination ability, which I think is okay. It didn't really make much of a difference. I do like the Matter Spark changing, taking over your Sparrow or your vehicle slot. I thought that was neat. However, it wasn't a great ability. It wasn't amazing. I mean, it's got its uses. Most of its uses are you see the thing, you do the thing, and because you had Matter Spark when you did the thing, it worked fine. It's not great. They also tried to push this idea that there were branching pathways and you could progress the quest this way and then progress this way and then go this way, or you could progress the quest the other way and go this way instead. There were two missions that had split paths, where you could choose to do one or the other, and that was it. The other branches of the storyline came after you did both of those two, and then you did the third that appeared, and then you did the fourth that appeared. That was how the campaign worked. So it wasn't entirely non-linear like they were trying to make it out to be. It was more so a non-linear section, and the non-linearity stemmed from, well, you could either go pick up this ability or you could pick up this ability. It's not going to make a difference either way. Now, with the new abilities comes puzzles, like destination puzzles. Like I said, they were leaning into that Metroidvania idea of you get the ability and now you can unlock new things. The puzzles suck. They're just really, really bad. Like it's literally just like, oh, that thing's glowing green, so let me grab my Mattermorph from this fungus plant and throw it over there, and oh, chest unlocked. Yippee! Like it's just, it's boring. And half of it is like just a chest sitting there with a weird thing on it. And if you have the ability, you could just open the chest. So like, for example, the Mattermorph one, it's literally just a chest chilling out in the open that has a little fungal spore on it. And you just hold interact to open it. There's no puzzle. The puzzle is, do you have the ability? It's dumb. However, the campaign is not entirely built on its puzzles. It's also built on mission structure. And there were a few really good missions and a few really who cares missions. The best mission by far, other than the final mission, is I think it's the second to last mission, where the reactor is melting down and you have to stop it. And the way that it's got a timer counting down, and you kill Vex and they give you 10-second motes if you grab the mote, but if you don't grab the mote, you don't get the extra 10 seconds. And so you're juggling this slaying out while also trying to complete the objective. And it's very easy to just amass a ton of time. Like in this clip right here, I think I had 11 minutes or something stupid like that. But it's a genuinely fun mission. And it's got some of the best character voice acting in the expansion, with Ikora, who we'll talk a little bit more about later, and Lodi, who we'll definitely talk more about later. Mission-wise, you had some really good ones and some really who cares ones. A lot of the back half stuff is really good, and the first mission is pretty good, but once they go into that get the thing to unlock the stuff mission structure, it just got super boring. Like, okay, now you're gonna chase this dude until he drops the Mattermorph ability, and then you're gonna pick up the Mattermorph ability and you're gonna use it to open up a thing, and you're gonna kill him, and now you've got Mattermorph. Cool. So something of note is there are a lot of bosses that you fight, a lot of boss level enemies. Maybe they're ultras, majors. I don't know enough about the nomenclature of that stuff. I'm not really that into the weeds of it. They felt a bit tanky on solo, and that may be due to my build choices or trading more survivability instead of damage, which I'm okay with. But on the higher difficulty stuff, such as Fabled and Mythic, which are world tiers that you can use on the new destination Kepler, they're basic enemies are just way too tanky, because the way that they did it is just the power delta. It just means you don't do any damage and they do a ton of damage, so enemies are really tanky. Even when you're at the level cap, enemies are stupidly tanky. It's not a great structure, but we'll talk more about that in the Kepler section. So, but leaving the world tiers aside for just a second, let's talk more about the campaign. So we've got mediocre puzzles, bad puzzles really. We've got some good missions and some not so good missions, which kind of sucks. So what about the rest of the campaign? Like the narrative. The narrative is a slam dunk. I mean, it went crazy. It was so compelling to actually experience this narrative and just like chase after what was going on and understanding what was happening. It was very compelling. I had so much fun learning more about the Nine, learning more about Lodi, Ikora Rey, these Ionians who have been on Kepler, and magically we didn't find out about them because of all the dark matter. I mean, it's just compelling, very interesting. Even the House of Exiles here, the faction of the Fallen, and even the Vex, I mean, they had a really hard time making the Vex compelling villains, because they're more of an idea of just this super large collective of a hive mind that looks at you and just doesn't even perceive you because it's so big. Even though you are capable of killing gods, they have taken galaxies and just turned them into their war machine. Just very interesting from like a they don't even care about you type of idea, but not an actual villain, right? They're more of a malevolent force than a villain. They're like nature. They don't really have a reason to be here other than because they feel like being here. However, in the first episode of the Final Shape year, they introduced a new villain for the Vex, Maya Sundaresh, the conductor, and she's able to like compel people, and so her Vex are here, and it's very interesting what they're doing. Very, very good stuff. I was never super interested in her in episode Echoes. She felt really boring. Like, who cares, you know? Who actually cares that Maya Sundaresh is here? What's she gonna do? Nothing. That's wrong. That's very wrong. She's doing a lot now, and I think it's good. You'll notice that most of my narrative praise has landed on characters, and that's because the characters are so well written. Usually, in an expansion, the characters will be written in a very static, who cares way, like, oh, they're just a stand-in for an idea. Like in Shadowkeep, you know, Eris Morn is like, oh, she's Eris Morn. I mean, she's actually a decent character. She's been characterized more recently. But Ikora Rey in Shadowkeep was just kind of like, huh, there's a pyramid under the moon. That sounds like a bad thing. And it's like, Ikora, you're not here to do anything interesting. You're literally here because you're like Eris Morn's boss or whatever. Who cares? But I'll be happy to say she gets so much characterization that she has severely needed in game. I'm not talking about the lore. Obviously, lore heads are like, oh, Ikora Rey is this really cool character. It's like, okay, but what does she do in game? She does nothing in game. She's done nothing in game for a very long time. She's just kind of stood around brooding and looked cool. And that's it. Well, now she stands around, she broods, she looks cool, and she's got a character to show for it. She's actually interesting. She has ideas. She believes in things. Or at least that's how it comes across. That's how she's written, is she's written as an actual person instead of Vanguard Warlock person who gives you your abilities when you buy them. But she's not even the star of the show. I mean, it's kind of hard for her to be the star of the show because at least during the launch and at the time of this video, there was a voice actor strike that has at least been resolved a little bit. I don't keep up enough with it to know. However, there was a voice actor strike, and the original recasted voice, Ikora Rey's had a weird history with her voice actor. But the newest and actual voice of Ikora Rey couldn't record for this expansion because she was busy being involved with the strike, which I agree with. It has a lot to do with AI, and we're not going to get into that right now, but good for her. However, we experienced the negatives that come from the SAG-AFTRA strike in episode Heresy, when we had major villains and major characters in the story who just didn't have a voice. And that was kind of jarring, and so to do that for a major expansion would be a really bad thing. So they got somebody else to voice it for Ikora temporarily, and that is Deborah Wilson, who does a fantastic job. I mean, she does great. There's so much emotion in her voice, especially in the reactor mission. I mean, there's just so much going on. She's very compelling. Pause though. Deborah Wilson voices one of the main antagonists of Destiny 2. So it's really hard to separate that character, Savathun, from Ikora Rey in these moments. And it feels so weird because it's like, why is Savathun telling me that we need to go stop the black hole? It's just jarring. And while she does a fantastic job, I mean, really, really sells it, it's just really, it's hard as a Destiny player to shake the feeling of Savathûn being the one telling me to do this instead of Ikora Rey.
Have a bearing. Gravimetric distortions leading out past orbit. Like footprints. Like a trail we're meant to follow. Guardian, I'm sending coordinates your way. It appears we have an invitation.
But that's neither here nor there. She's not the standout performance. She is second fiddle to the greatest character that they have introduced since Cayde 6, Lodi.
Sorry for all that earlier. My name's Lodi. My introductions aren't usually that rude.
This man is incredibly written. He's so compelling. He's so interesting. He sells every single scene that he is in. Every single scene. You just want to stop and listen to what he has to say. And his voice actor killed it. I mean, killed it. Crushed it out of the park. It was insane how good he did.
Everyone in the future just has the worst sense of style. I'm sorry. I can't hold it in anymore. You are wonderful people, but you all look ridiculous.
Whoa, lighting change. Anyways, Lodi is a special boy, and we need to protect him at all costs because he is incredible. He's a fish out of water, a man brought through time. He's from like the 60s or something, and he got pulled through time by the Nine, and he feels like somebody who got pulled through time into a strange future in a strange world. And the only reason that he is able to cope and compete with these facts as well as he is because he was from a government agency that is specifically trained to deal with the unknown and the alien. That's the only reason he's able to keep his sanity in check. He's a linguist, for God's sakes. I mean, this man knows languages, but he's not like I'm in the future with aliens and I gotta blast, hee hee hoo hoo. Like, he is a huge step up when you compare him to the most recently introduced person that I can think of from Lightfall, Nimbus. They suck so much, and Lodi is amazing. It's night and day. Where freaking Nimbus is over here cracking jokes while it's literally the end of their people. I mean, their people are on the verge of death, and they're like, hey, just another day at the office. That dude's ugly, ho ho. And it's like, shut up. These are universe-ending stakes, and you're just over here making Marvel quips. Shut up. And then Lodi is out here like, I just saw the collapse. They showed it to me, and now I'm having an existential crisis because everyone I know and love is gone. For centuries now, they've been gone, and a lot of them died in bad ways. Feels good, man. It's genuinely super duper ironic to me that the stranger in a strange land, the man out of time that is Lodi, just fits in so well into this game. I mean, into this alien setting that he has no reason to be able to deal with other than the fact that he's from a government agency that specifically trained their folks to be able to deal with this stuff. He just fits in. It's crazy how well he does too. I mean, it's just so good, and we need more of him, and I look forward to seeing what the Ashen Iron update does if he's involved in it, and what Renegades will do if he's involved in it, because everything that this man touches turns to gold. I love Lodi, and it seems that the community sentiment is pretty average around that, in that Lodi is one of, if not the best character that has been introduced in an expansion to date.
This beautiful boy is the emissary to be, paperwork permitting.
So let's discuss system changes now in the Edge of Fate. And a lot of these are so intrinsically tied to the expansion for me that I feel that it's appropriate to talk about the system changes that came with the Edge of Fate, even though they're more general game system changes instead of just something from the expansion. I think that they affect how I view the Edge of Fate enough to warrant talking about them in this video. So let's talk about the first and probably the biggest change, at least to my opinion, is the Great Number Crunch. We went from 2020 who cares power to 10. And all of the damage numbers got dropped down as well. And I mean, instead of doing like 700 damage to a Dreg's head, you're doing 35. Their head still pops either way. Like, it's proportionally, it's still fine. So it's like, it's not that big a deal, but it really does mess with the muscle memory when I'm pulling out my Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun and I do 8,000 damage to something instead of 4 quadrillion or whatever the heck I was hitting before. Because yeah, you're like, wait a second, I just did no damage with my Nighthawk. Which sucks, but then you're like, oh no, his health went gone. The next major thing, Armor 3.0 and stat changes. These are contentious. They have been, at least. I don't know if that opinion has settled by now, but they're a little contentious. They changed a lot of the stats to make more meaningful impacts. In fact, every single point you have matters now. It makes some level of difference, even if it's minuscule, it still makes a difference. And now you can move from, instead of a 100 cap on your stats, or what often people said were 10 stats, instead of a cap of 100, it's now 200. And like I said, every single point matters. So how did they adjust armor to compensate for a new cap being double what it was? Well, Armor 3.0. It's a little different. Instead of having all stats on an armor piece, they put 2 major stats and then a tertiary stat. So there are different types of armor that will give you a primary and secondary stat, and those are set, and then your tertiary stat is random. So for example, I think it's like Paragon is super and class or something like that. So it'll give you a big spiky super bar. It'll give you a slightly large class, and then it'll give you a random something else. That's always gonna be smaller than your secondary stat. So it's gonna be like say a 15, I think it's actually like a 30, a 20, and a 10 in some of your stats. And I try to lean into this super hard. I deleted a lot of my armor that I wasn't actively using from prior to Edge of Fate, just to really force myself into the system. And I think it's all right. It's interesting how for some of my characters, like my Titan, I still was using my regular armor, and for my Warlock, I don't know if I will stop for a while yet because it's all Artifice armor. Whereas on my Hunter, I was more comfortable trying to make those changes. In fact, I specifically set out to try and make those changes. So I thought that it was interesting, and it feels decent when you're able to go through like a boss damage phase and you'll pull out like 2 supers because you have 115 super stat or whatever, and your weapons are giving you a ton of super energy back on hit. It's interesting. I don't think that it's a good or a bad change yet. It's one that I think that is fine, and I could see being good when we get more archetypes instead of the ones that we have, because some of the archetypes aren't great for trying to do anything really, unless your build like really needs grenade energy or something. So it's all right. I do, however, have a Titan build that I was using here where I was just getting so much melee energy back with my point contact cannon brace and my pugilist sidearm plus a 100 plus stat for my melee that I was just throwing out thunderclaps left, right, and center. It was kind of fun. You can do that a lot easier now than you could prior to Edge of Fate, but something else will suffer as a result. It's a trade, and I think that it's more interesting, and it'll be more interesting in time when more archetypes show up. The final big change that I really want to talk about is the portal. I like the idea of the portal. I like what's present in the concept of the portal, and I like the execution well enough. But it feels really off for some reason. I like being able to target loot. That's pretty cool. And just like being able to be like, this is what I want to do. I want to play in solo ops and I want to grind this activity. Like, I think it's cool. However, I just, part of the charm of Destiny 2, at least for me, was feeling like your character could exist in the world. And a large part of that, in my opinion, was the directory, how it evolved and changed over time to accommodate new destinations and things. And it felt like your character was charting their course where they wanted to go in the system and going there. And the only way to get to Kepler is through the portal. Which also begs the question of when Renegades launches, where is Kepler gonna end up? Where is it gonna be? Like, how will you get there? I don't know, because it's not in the directory and the directory is not updated. Actually, that's not true. The directory has been updated. It's now a washed out gray epitaph of a directory. It's really interesting that they decided to depreciate the director by just desaturating it. It's like a ghost. But they have said that they do plan on reverting that change. It was mostly because a lot of people during playtests were not interacting with the portal in the way that they wanted. They were often going to the director to do things that they wanted to do, which as a veteran Destiny player, I think is a better system for a veteran Destiny player. However, if you're new, I think the portal is incredibly valuable to you because it gives you things to go do and it gives you targets to chase and an idea of what you have to do. And I think that it's great. So having both be updated would be ideal in my mind. But I just don't like the portal at the expense of the directory. It just feels wrong as a veteran player. But like I said, they have come out and said that they plan on reversing the desaturation and resaturating the director. However, I don't think that they said that they make any plans on actually updating it to accommodate for the new destinations in the future. So that's still kind of tough. So speaking of Kepler, new expansion, new destination. New destination is Kepler. It's a neat destination. It's not visually the most interesting destination we've had. It feels very IO-y to me, which if you're a new player, you haven't really experienced that much. But if you're a veteran player, I mean, you kind of experienced it in Destiny 1 with Venus to a different extent. And it feels, I mean, the color palette's almost the exact same as IO, I think. It's very, very okay in my mind. It does nothing great, it does nothing bad. One thing that I do think is interesting, and I hope that they expand on it and update it more in the future to be more accommodating for folks, is the world tiers. I think that that's very interesting that you've got your different world difficulties that'll set different power deltas and cause different events to spawn and things like that. I think that that's cool. However, I think that the higher end is a little bit tedious and not fun. I have a lot of fun in Fabled. I think Fabled has a really, really satisfying, enemies take a decent amount of damage to kill, but they're not bullet sponges. At least the red bars are able to be killed with primary weapons. And in Mythic, which is the highest tier, that just is not the case. Like, you may as well just not use a primary because it is going to do nothing to an enemy. And it just feels stupid. Like, it just, I'm just sitting there using my heavy on like a red bar because even my special weapon can't break this Harpy shield. Like it just feels dumb. It just feels so dumb. Like, I like the idea of making a more difficult world tier that gives you better loot, but it doesn't even give you better loot. That's the thing, is your loot isn't determined by world tier. If you're on Mythic, you're not getting tier 5s. That's determined by your light level, which, yeah, if you're on Mythic, it's gonna give you higher light things, but it's not worth it when you've got the portal over there. Like, it's just not worth it. And I hope that they tune it a little bit better so that primary weapons do at least a little bit more damage to red bars, because as it stands now, it's like if you're not going in with Outbreak, you're not killing something in a mag, and that kind of feels ridiculous. Now, I didn't talk about this a moment ago, but I do want to discuss tiered loot. I really, really like the idea of tiered loot. I think tier 5s being highly coveted, highly sought after items with special unique identities tied to them, I think that that's really cool. And I really, 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 really want to get to the spot where I can grind tier 5s. It's just that tier 5s are really, really hard to get to the spot where you can grind them. But they're very, very worth it to get there. So I'm conflicted, and right now it's just annoying that Kepler, the new destination, doesn't give you tier 5s. Like, I really would like a tier 5 Giver's Blessing. That gun seems really, really fun. I mean, I've played with it. It's a really fun gun. And I want a tier 5 of it because I want to have a cool, I was there, I did that thing. However, if I have to grind on Mythic tier for hours and hours and hours just to get like tier 3s, I just don't know if that's worth it. Overall, I'd say that I do enjoy the expansion so far. $40 might be a little steep for it, in my opinion, but it's very fun if you're into Destiny already. If you're not into Destiny, I would say avoid this. If you're not a Destiny fan, then obviously don't get this expansion. It's not the one that's gonna bring you into it. It's $40 for an incredible narrative, an okay destination, and that's really about it. So I don't think that it's worth it if you're not already into Destiny. But if you are into Destiny and you really, really like all of the things that the past 10 years have given us, this is a great next step. And I really think that it's worth jumping into, especially because Renegades has a lot of cool implications coming from this expansion. And I really think that Renegades, I was very skeptical of it before, especially with the Star Wars stuff, but I think based off of what we've seen here, we can expect a great expansion, probably taking place in Old Chicago, which I'm super hyped for. If you're, like I said, if you're a Destiny head, Old Chicago is a huge place in your mind, and going to Old Chicago would be incredible. So I'm very hopeful that that prediction pans out. But like I said, it might not be worth it if you're not into Destiny already. At the time of writing, the raid race is tomorrow. So I really, really hope that it's a fun raid. And while I'm not expecting anything, I'm just hoping not for Root of Nightmares 2.0. Please not Root of Nightmares 2.0. That raid sucks, and I don't want another one. Editor Potato here. I have procrastinated this video for long enough that in the time since I wrote and recorded the video, the raid race has happened, and I have played the raid, and I can say that it is great. I really, really like the encounters. I think that it's really, really cool how all of the bosses require pretty much everybody on the team to do at least something. I think that that's a really, really good design. The raid race was really, really hard, and unfortunately, a lot of teams cheated, it turns out, to get their clears, which is really, really unfortunate. However, it seems like all the people at the higher skill ceiling enjoyed the raid race, which I am happy for them. Raid races aren't for me. However, I do want them to be as hard as they can be while also being a satisfying challenge to complete. So I'm really happy to hear that a lot of people enjoyed it. And overall, I think that this raid is definitely in the higher tier of raids. It's probably top 5. I'd have to do it a few more times to really give it a solid spot on the ranking, but overall I think that it's really, really fun. I like the idea of the feat system, and I'm curious to see what the epic raid variant will do for the future. Anyways, back to past me for the rest of the video. There's already been a ton of controversy this expansion with leveling up through the Encore mission, where it was ridiculously fast and you could just have a modifier that would let you grapple into infinity and beyond. That would let you speedrun the level, and Bungie brought it offline, and then now it's back up, but then I think they brought it offline again or something, I don't know. And the third iteration, I think is the name of it, that scout rifle was so broken. So broken. I mean, beyond broken with the anti-barrier scout rifle, that it made Mythic World Tier fun. You could kill things with a primary. It was crazy. And it was, what a weird launch. We've had so many bugs. We've got Savathun voicing one of the main good guys right now. It's been a wild time. And while I have enjoyed the launch, I will say, if you're not already into Destiny, wait for this to go on sale. $40 is a bit too much. I would say $25. I would be comfortable recommending it to somebody who is interested in trying out Destiny. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.